Welcome back to More Sip2Tally, and today we finally reached the pinnacle of our More Sip2Tally power rankings with our number one team. It is the San Francisco 49ers. Let's dive right into it, get into their quarterback room, and see what they have to offer. Brock Purdy, who's their number one guy, and I gave Brock Purdy a lot of flack last year, but he made a believer out of me. Um, they were floating his name around to be MVP candidate. I wasn't believing the hype. But even with the game he had versus the Ravens with the interceptions, Brock Purdy's legit. He's a legit quarterback in the NFL, and it won't be too much more slander from me about Brock because I believe Brock will be pretty good. Yeah, I think he'll have a pretty good career once it's said and done. Last year he was 308 for 444, 69.4% completion rate, 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. His QBR was 72.8, and his quarterback rating was 113, one of the few that were over 100 on the season. So that itself tells you a little bit about Brock and how well he was able to perform with the weapons that he have and without. But I think he'll be straight with or without because that was a big debate. In that room, they picked up Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs started at can't remember where he started at, but he ended up going to Arizona, playing some games. Then he got traded to Cleveland and played some games. No, Minnesota and played some games. So Josh Dobbs is well traveled. A good backup just in case something happens to Brock Purdy. Got plenty of experience. And the third quarterback in that room is Brandon Allen. Let's get to the skill position, which is kind of where they have an abundance of talent. Starting off with Christian McCaffrey, one of the most explosive players in the NFL, one of the best players in the NFL. Rushed for 1,459 yards for 14 TDs last year. Also caught 67 balls for 564 yards with 7 more touchdowns. So totally Christian McCaffrey combined for 21 touchdowns rushing or receiving. I'm not sure if he threw one on a verse or not. It may have been last year, but I know he had 21 rushing and receiving this year. Bagging him up, Elijah Mitchell, 281 yards rushing, and then they drafted Isaac Guerendo this year. So those are the three top backs in the San Francisco 49ers rushing attack. But also, and do I have it? I do have for Debo. I was going to say Debo's a cross between both. So we're going to talk about the wide receivers, but let's talk about Debo first. So Debo lines up in the backfield, carries the ball, and he plays wide receiver. Even though he does most of it at wide receiver, he had 37 carries for 225 yards and 5 touchdowns. A lot of jet sweeps and sometimes some inside zone. But receiving the ball, he had 60 catches, 892 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And he missed two games last year, 2 regular season games. Also in that room, as of right now, Brandon Ayuk is still there. Brandon Ayuk had over 1,300 yards last year with 7 touchdowns. Is he still going to be there? I don't know, but he's there now, so we counting him, on this team. The third receiver, Juwan Jennings, had 19 catches, 265 yards. They also drafted one of my favorite receivers from this draft, Ricky Pearsall. So I think Ricky Pearsall is, depending on what happens with Ayuk this year or next year, Ricky Pearsall will have a huge role, one of the two, because I don't think they're going to keep Debo and Ayuk. Also, they drafted Jacob Counting from Arizona. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And then also Ronnie Bell rounds out that wide receiver room. But Debo and Ayuk, Juwan Jennings and Pearsall, that's a formidable top 4 right there in my book. The tight end room, I really like the tight end room. I think they have the best tight end in the game right now. Like right now, and that's George Kittle. Last year he had 65 catches, 1,020 yards, 15.7 yards per catch, 6 touchdowns. But they added a really good tight end in Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas had 55 catches last year, 496 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So George Kittle, you add Logan Thomas, and they drafted Cameron Latu. I really like this tight end room. Like, they got the best tight end, and they went and got a middle of the pack tight end to go with him. It's pretty darn good. Pretty darn good in the tight end position. All right, let's talk about the guys that'll be blocking for the 49ers. Trent Williams, PFF grade, 92.6. Trent is aged like fine wine. The older he's gotten, the better he's gotten. Don't see any drop-off coming from Trent. Aaron Banks, 52.8. Jake Brendel, 66.3. John Feliciano, 79.8. And then Colt McKevitt, 65.2. That's the O-line for San Francisco. They really got one dominant player. And if it's a weak link in offense to the 49ers, I would say it's the O-line. Even though Trent is probably one of the best left tackles in the game. But the rest of them, you might can get those guys. Let's go to the dark side, which is we all know they have had one of the best defenses in a long time. Up front, they're normally top tier. They're not as good up front as in the past. But they still got some good players up there. Nick Bosa's still there. 10.5 sacks, 53 tackles, and we know how much of a force he is off the edge. Javon Hargrave, that came over from the Eagles, he's there. 7 sacks, 44 tackles for him. They added Malik Collins. He had 5 sacks and 41 tackles. They also added Leonard Floyd on the edge. They run a 4-3, so the edge guys will be Nick Bosa and Leonard Floyd. Both of those guys had 10.5 sacks last year. And then in the middle, you got Javon Hargrave and Malik Collins, which they're not as good as they used to be, but they're still pretty darn good up front in that front four. Not to say that they'll suck up front. They front four used to be like 4 all-pro caliber guys. But it's still good up there now. Still good. Go to their linebacking core. Fred Warner, one of the best to do it. Last year, 132 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 11 passes defended, 4 interceptions. His running mate, his Robin, Dre Greenlaw, 120 tackles, 4 passes defended, no interceptions. And when they are in their base, their traditional base, they'll bring in Devondre Campbell, who played for Green Bay last year. I think Green Bay last year, or the Lions, 1 or 2. And he had 75 tackles and 1 pass defended last year. So their base is 4-3, and their front 7 is really, really good. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 guys that I know are Pro Bowl caliber in their front 7. Let's go to their back end. Now, when I said the front 7 has fell off a little bit, the back end has gotten better. When that front 7 was like completely dominant, their back end was a little sus. Now it's kind of even out now. Their back end is a lot better, and they got Javarius Ward playing corner. I think he's one of the best players in the NFL. 72 tackles, 23 passes defended, 5 interceptions. I think Ward is one of the best players in the NFL right now. One of the best corners in the NFL, definitely. With him, Ambry Thomas, 43 tackles, 7 passes defended, 1 interceptions. And then Deommodore Lenoir is the nickel cornerback. He had 84 tackles, 10 passes defended, and 3 interceptions. Guy that I think my favorite player on their defense, even though I don't really like the team, is Hufanga. I can't pronounce his first name, but let's try it. Talanoa Hufanga. I like how hard Hufanga plays. He kind of reminds me of Troy. I don't know if he has the freedom to do all the stuff Troy did, but I like the way he run around and play and make tackles and interceptions and just play. I really like his game. He was hurt last year. Only played 10 games, 52 tackles, 3 passes defended, 3 interceptions. But again, stat sheet stuff is that's what you want out of your safeties. And also in that room is J.R. Brown. That's their second safety at 35 tackles, 4 passes defended, and 2 interceptions. So as they got better on the back end, their front end kind of slipped a little bit. But overall, it's a pretty darn good defense. One of the best defenses in the league right now. But let's take a look at each position group ranking and see where I got them at. We know they're the number 1 team, but let's see why they're the number 1 team. Quarterback room, I have them 12. Running back 11. Wide receiver 4. Tight end 2. Offensive line 6. D-line edge 14. Linebacker 2. Cornerback 2. Safety 9. So they have the most single-digit rankings on the countdown, and they're the only team to post an average in single digits. When you add all that up and divide it, it's 6.88889. They're the only team on this countdown to finish with a single digit average. And the San Francisco 49ers are your number 1 team on the more Sip2Tally power rankings. So I thank everybody for coming on this journey with me, teams 32 through 1. If you haven't watched them, go back and check it out and find your team. If you're seeing this one randomly, you want to go find your team, you got to search them out and see. But I thank everybody for coming out. I'm going to flash the whole list on the side right quick because I forgot about their rookies, but we ain't going to talk about them. Forget it. I'm going to flash this whole list right here or over here, and you can see like the 1 through 32 real quick. I appreciate y'all, man. Thank you. I'm out.